Hi everyone, it's Nicole here for Simon Says Stamp, and today I'm sharing Copic coloring over a text pattern paper background using components from the September 2019 card kit called Look for the Rainbows. I absolutely adore this card kit and I think you will too. I am taking this Vicki Boutin double-sided 6x8 mixed media paper. It has that great text background. You can see it over there on the right side of the screen. And I kind of laid out some of the exclusive stamps from the kit. This is the Look for the Rainbow 6x8 clear stamp set over this just to gauge kind of where I want to put those items on my card. Then I'm going to trim down my text pattern paper to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. Starting with this paper as the base of my card, I'm going to place this in a MISTI, and then I'm going to take that floral arch from the Look for the Rainbows stamp set and stamp this here on my background. I'm going to be adding one of the bird images from the stamp set sitting in the flowers. I want to make sure that wherever I position my florals, and I'm going to just use this post-it tape to kind of help serve as a guide, wherever I place the floral, I can flip my paper over and I can stamp the mirror image of it, or kind of the reverse image, whatever you want to call it, underneath. I'm kind of making a wreath design, if you will, with these two floral arches. It's going to leave me room in the middle to add my stamped sentiment. Once I make sure that that's going to work and it'll be fairly centered, I'm going to stamp the first arch using some Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And I missed a spot there right in the center, so I'm going to ink that up again and stamp it again. This is a alcohol marker ink friendly, or an alcohol marker friendly ink, so it's going to work great for coloring in with Copic markers. Next, before I place this down, I am just double checking that this is going to look good, and then I'm going to ink up the flower arch again and stamp that right there on the other side of my paper. And there's a couple of fainter spots in this, so I'm just going to ink up that area again, stamp that again before taking my stamp, cleaning it, removing that from my MISTI, and then I'm going to position one of those birds sitting up there in the florals and stamp that bird. And that's going to finish off my outline stamping. These are going to be the images I will be coloring in with Copic markers for this design. If you're using a text paper, I always like for my text to be going the right way. So I made sure and stamped my bird with the text being at least legible. If that doesn't matter to you, it's not a big deal if it's upside down or whatever. But for me, I just wanted to double check and make sure that my text is going the right way for when I stamp my bird. Then I'm going to take Copic markers and I am going to color these in. Now, I don't know what it is about this particular Vicki Boutin mixed media 6x8 paper, but it colors like a dream. Really smooth, there's not a texture to it, and so the markers actually worked beautifully. I love coloring over text pattern paper because I like the text kind of showing through the coloring. Often I will create cards and stamp a text stamp over it to create this exact look. So this eliminates kind of one of those steps in the card design, which I really like. I purposely picked kind of rainbow colors of ink to use on my card design. We've got green, we've got red, we will have yellow, purple, pink, turquoise, and a little orange for the beak of the bird, but really no orange anywhere else. I just wanted bright and colorful. This kit has the word rainbow in it, in the name of the kit, in the pattern papers. You can see the pattern paper at the top of my screen. That is actually the back side of this text pattern paper. I used it as a guide to kind of help me choose Copic markers for my project. So I kind of tried to pick colors that were represented in this. I am listing the colors I'm using along the bottom edge of the screen. If at any time you're wondering exactly which markers I use to color in different areas of this, you can find that information there. I will only be coloring one of these arches in the bird on camera. The other one is colored exactly the same. So to save some time today, I opted to not color both of those on camera. I deepened and darkened some of the bird with a little bit darker colors here and there. Did a little yellow for the belly, a little orange for the beak. And then we're going to go in and color in the rest of our flowers, starting with yellow, Y11, 08, and 19. That is also the color I used for the center of the red and pink flowers. A little G28, which is the darker of the two green colors I'm using for the little small leaves. For the pink flower, I'm using RV10, 17, and 19. I opted to go with pink instead of orange. I contemplated whether I wanted to do that or not, and I'm glad I did. I like the addition of the pink flower on this card. These are red violets and a little bit darker, deeper, it's still very pink, but almost kind of a magenta color combination. I really like this. And I think it works nicely with the red, yellow, and purple flowers. For purple, I'm actually using colors from the blue color family. This is B63, 66, and 69, but I love these colors. So it kind of has, again, that blue-violet look to it, but I love that. And then a little yellow to finish off the center of this flower. Now, one of my favorite things about this card design is that I took a white pen and added detail. I used a black pen to add detail to the eye on the bird, and then I'm going through my images and adding white pen detail here and there. I will do this on both of the arches to the center, so both flower arches, the centers of the leaves, detailing to the center of the flowers, some of the detailing coming out from the center of the flowers, basically following the stamped lines that are already there. Adding little white dots to those areas that are a lot of black, that are kind of solid, helps lighten them up a little bit. The cheek of the bird, all of those little things like that, adding a highlight into the eye of the bird. Adds really, really nice fun detail. I'm going to take the thinking of you sentiment, and I want to stamp the thinking of you greeting from the Look for the Rainbow stamp set right there in the center of my wreath. I'll use a powder tool. I'll ink that up with a clear embossing ink. And then I'm going to heat emboss this with the Simon Says Stamp Antique Gold Embossing Powder. And I'm going to stamp this right over the text background, heat emboss this, and then for the rest of our sentiment, we are going to be taking some of the AUDREY blue cardstock included in the September kit and stamping another phrase from the Look for the Rainbow stamp set on that using our Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, but this time we will heat emboss with white embossing powder. So we'll get to that here in just a second. I've stamped now the thinking of you. I did go ahead and take my blue-green 10 marker and trace around the images here just as a little light shadow. And I did take the G24 marker and trace over some of the branches to add a little more greenery to the design. It helps make it a little more bright and colorful and not quite maybe so muted. And this was really, really quick coloring, tracing around all the images with the BG10 marker. Probably could have even gone a little darker with either BG11 or 13 to have a little bit darker shadow, but I wasn't totally sure that I wanted to do this, and I was afraid that it would be a little harsh. So I went light, and I ended up liking how it turned out. Really, really fast. I did not take tons of time to go around this. Now, I did stamp that other sentiment on the AUDREY blue cardstock from the kit. I'm not going to worry about lining it up perfect, as I am going to take a nesting banners die. This is a Simon Says Stamp exclusive die set, one of my favorite and most often used. And I'm going to die cut that, so I don't have to worry about lining it up perfectly. I purposely chose the AUDREY blue cardstock to kind of tie into the blue bird sitting in our floral wreath. I thought it worked really nicely with the blue text background and the blue bird while not taking away from the beautiful coloring. So here's that banner die I'm going to use. Little skinny rectangle. We'll tape that in place, run that through our die cutting machine. And then I want to attach this to my card with a little foam adhesive strip. I'm going to take that, trim that up, pop this in place right underneath the Thinking of You. I just want to make sure it's perfectly centered. I'm just eyeballing it, but as close as possible. Nice little pop of color right through the center of the card, plus adds a nice little bit of depth and dimension. We're going to glue this down, adhere it to a top fold card base. I'm using a nice strong adhesive for that. This is going to completely cover the front of our card base. So pretty. And now I'm going to take some Nouveau Crystal drops in pale gold, and I'm going to add little drops all over my card. Now, I thought I would add one of these little enamel dots or enamel hearts from the kit, but I think it gets lost in the florals, so I'm going to save that for another project and another card. We're going to just add little drops kind of all around our wreath. It's going to tie it all together. It'll add a little bit of a metallic look throughout the card, which ties in nicely with the stamped and embossed Thinking of You. And once we have that done, we are going to let this sit and dry for at least 24 hours before putting it into an envelope to mail, so that those Nouveau Crystal drops have time to dry and harden. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this coloring over text pattern paper card featuring the Simon Says Stamp September 2019 card kit, Look for the Rainbows. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards featuring Simon Says stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.